I want to talk about self-righteousness. There's a lot of talk that goes on in the church about how people are wrong for trying to be righteous on their own and trying to have a righteousness of their own. And a lot of this conversation can be mixed with things that are true and things that are not true. Because number one, the problem with self-righteousness can be translated into it's wrong basically to try and have a real righteousness in life, and that is condemnable in God's sight, that we who believe in Christ are supposed to be so entirely believing in Christ's righteousness that it's basically wrong for us to seek to establish any real righteousness in our own life. When the real problem with self-righteousness is not that people were trying to live actually righteously, it's that they believed they were living righteously when their righteousness was garbage, when their attempts at righteousness did not have real righteousness in him. And this is the problem with sin. Sin is that we are so convinced of our own goodness, our own morality, our own religious activity, and we're so impressed with ourselves when in the face of that we're actually denying what it really takes to live righteously, and we're not living in a way that's truly pursuing those things and really fighting for those things, but instead we're satisfied with the mere notion of having those things without really working for it. The problem in Romans with the Jews is that they were trying to seek to live in this system of religious observances and to believe that they were righteous and good without actually pursuing real righteousness, which was through faith, which is a real lively response to God, a real sincere heart towards God. But they were satisfied with tithing a little bit of mint and cumin and having these external notions of religion, but they forsook the real heart of religion, righteousness and godliness, a real sincerity. And so this is what the Bible is talking about. The Bible is showing that the righteousness that people try to walk in is either just this false religious righteousness, or it's people trying to establish their own righteousness apart from God. And it's a type of rebellion. This is the kind of thing you see all the time in the world where, I don't need God to be moral. That's the issue, is you believe in your own goodness, you believe in your own morality, and you deny the need of God, the need to really walk in knowledge of God and submission to God in order to come into a true understanding of righteousness and what is good. If we look at Acts 10, verse 34 through 35, it says, "So Peter opened his mouth and said, 'Truly I understand that God shows no partiality, but in every nation anyone who fears him and does what is right is acceptable to him.'" This is where Peter was coming for the very first time with the gospel to the Gentiles. And this man, Cornelius, was a man of integrity. He had been trying to walk in a real godliness and a real righteousness. And so God had received him and brought the gospel and the true knowledge of the way of salvation to him. And you see this kind of thing throughout the scriptures. But today, there's this idea in the church where it's basically that a person who tries to seek God with a real attempt at righteousness, with a real attempt of godliness in submission to him, not in rebellion and resistance and outside of God, but with God, that person is trying to be saved by works or whatever else, and that they're denying the gospel when that is the gospel. God approves of the person who is seeking a real righteousness. The difference is whether we truly submit to the righteousness of God, or we try to establish our own, and we are deceived by our own false righteousness rather than seeking the true form of righteousness through Christ.